Welcome back to the Old Bull and Young Calf Boston Sports Podcast. And we have, an interesting slate for you. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of it does not involve our favorite teams, which is a bit of a bummer. Just like always, we're going to let you guys dictate how this show goes. If people pop in, they want to talk about different things, we'll go with that. But my dad had a few ideas on things we want to hit on. Dad, do you want to touch base on what we're going to try and hit on today? If we don't get too many, side quests.
Yeah, so the Patriots are still the hot topic, all the changes that are being made. So we are going to touch on them first, and including some disturbing breaking news from Mr. Albert Breer. And we're going to discuss that and talk about what it means for Vrabel and his start to his tenure with the team. And we've been in panic mode with the Bruins for a while now. Is it time to legitimately throw the Celtics in there? Because normally the old bull and young Cav, when it comes to the Celtics, we're like, don't sweat it. It might be time to start sweating it. So we're also going to discuss them, and not going to bring up the Red Sox because, as usual, they are in the middle of the salary scale amongst all these teams. Dodgers again, just throwing money like
Dodgers are
drunken
crazy, huh?
Christian sailors. It's just insane. So the Red Sox, I was expecting them to make a big splash this offseason, but they didn't do it. So it looks like we could be very well in for another season of never talking about them again. So
Yeah.
anyway, let's let's at least touch on the three teams that are somewhat trying.
Yeah. So we'll move on, and like my dad said, we'll talk about the Breers report. We'll start off with the Patriots. As different people trickle in, we'll go from there. So Albert Breer, who my dad, would you say he's a mouthpiece for Kraft? Is that what you're going off with?
So anytime Breer, Tommy Curran, or Mike Reese have anything to say about the Patriots, you should listen because they don't just throw anything out there. If they tell it, it sticks, and it's usually accurate. And earlier, Albert Breer, sorry, as usual, terrible with names, gave us the news that this isn't a facade. Like, Wolf might not be going anywhere and have a significant part on deciding who the hell our players are going to be in 2025 and in our upcoming absolutely crucial imperative draft. And that, I tell you folks, if that's the case, that is not good because you could take the perfect coach. You could take Belichick, Shula, Lombardi, and mash them up all into one. They're not going to be able to make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, if we get another batch of players in here like we did in 2024. The draft is already a complete disaster. It's like nobody's it might be no one is salvageable out of that entire draft. Again, we don't give Wolf credit for May because that was the obvious pick. They needed a quarterback. There was three of them. They were at three. They were going to take whichever one was available. And the free agent class he brought in was absolutely laughable
Yep.
and nothing but joke after joke.
It's rough when
And
your
here we
two
go
biggest hits
again.
are Austin Hooper and Antonio Gibson. And Antonio Gibson really wasn't too special, but those were his, I think, two biggest free agency hits.
Yeah, those are the two that were okay. They were okay. And then Matt in our little exchange, our text exchange that we have, sent over a graphic that is just so disgusting. It's
Yeah.
so putrid, showing all of our Patriot starters where Pro Football Focus ranked them amongst the league. Wait till you see this.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what is tough there, it's like, okay, pro football focus is not perfect, right? But it's still a metric and it's used widely amongst the league, especially when you're talking about all pro positions, when you're talking about, Pro Bowl, how people performed. Pro Football Focus, people go there and they look. And like my dad said, it is embarrassing where the Patriots land on that. And I think one point that's super indicative of how poorly this team was constructed from a talent perspective. Do you recall that our very first depth chart preseason Patriots review, right? How hard was it to get down to the 50, was it 52 players at that point? How that was tough that time, right? Like a few years ago, right? Yeah. And this year,
Oh
how
man, that was a great point. I forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah. And this year, I think you and I had like what, 44 players on our final roster? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We couldn't even like the garbage that was left over to even try to field a 52-man team. It was like any of these guys are like, Canadian Football League players. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess throw him on the team, throw this guy on the team. There was no tough decisions. There was no, oh man, they're gonna have to
What are we gonna
cut
do?
someone from this group because they get too many of this. And it's just embarrassing. And sure enough, all of it played out the way we predicted. It was just a complete disaster. And, you
It's a
know,
void of talent on both sides of the ball in a big way. And we felt
void
that
of
all
talent.
season.
And, the goodwill that I was going to afford Kraft after finally making a tough decision and moving on from Mayo. I mean, that just nullifies that if he keeps Wolf. And Wolf has like a strong say in player personnel going forward. I mean, talk about setting Vrabel up for failure. And I'm kind of already disappointed in Vrabel. Like, what are you doing, dude? You had all the leverage coming in, and really it should have been no, 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 no. Robert, I'm bringing my own guys in here to pick players. I saw the crap show last year of your draft and your free agents. And I mean, if we want to keep Wolf around till the draft for appearances, that's fine. But no, no, he's not making any decisions. And if it gets leaked out, it gets leaked out.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Albert Breer reporting this is after multiple reports of it being the opposite, that Vrabel gets the final say. Vrabel is the key decision maker, right? And you saw what Vrabel did in bringing over his own guy. At no point in his press conference did Vrabel ever defer to Elliot Wolf. What he said is they were going to get together and take a look at things. And people are going to have differing opinions. He wants people to have differing opinions. I I think, Dad, you are getting super afraid and seeing ghosts of something that's actually not an issue. Elliot Wolf, at no point has anybody from the organization said Elliot Wolf is the final say decision maker for our team. But all we have seen from Kraft, from Vrabel publicly, is Vrabel believes there's a seat at the table for Elliot Wolf, but it's not the head of the table. He doesn't have the gavel, right? And you know, one thing I will say is we keep hearing about the system that Elliot Wolf has now in place that was not completely in place last year. He has this metric system. I don't know where he's pulling this friggin' out of his butt, but he got it going. I think this is the make or break year. This is it for him. Um, I don't know, and I really don't like that Kraft is going down a very similar path to Jerry Jones in that we have these puppet pseudo GMs. I want a real GM. I want somebody to send to the chopping block when something goes wrong. Right now, it's a bunch of faceless, too many chefs in the kitchen, which is, I think, what you should be more concerned about. That is the fact that they haven't announced clearly who's making those decisions, and they keep alluding to a group effort. I don't want a group effort. I'm not. I want people to report up to somebody and for that person to say my job's in the line and I need to make the right decision. I mean, I don't know, Dad. Do you think there's any chance that you might be overreacting, or are you still on DEFCON 5?
I don't know. I don't think so. Like this report today, like you said about his system,
Oh
that
yeah,
Kraft kind of likes it and all that. It's almost like Will Smith at the Oscars. Get my wife's name out of your mouth. Okay. Get Elliot Wolf out of my draft room. Get Elliot Wolf out of my free agency decisions. Matt, even if he doesn't have final say, I don't want his words even touching Vrabel's ear or whoever is making that decision. I don't want his influence. He did not do well at anything. You can make a case for tight end. He kept Hunter Henry. Good decision. Henry was good. He signed Austin Hooper. Good decision. Bell, the tight end project, he didn't really show much.
Yep.
So the jury's still out on him, but I don't have high hopes for him,
Well, let's look at.
considering that he barely get on the field and how starved we are for talent. I don't want this
Yeah.
guy anywhere near the ears of Vrabel or have any influence whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at who are Elliot Wolf guys here, right? And who's the residual from Bill Belichick, and kind of maybe Bill Belichick did him a favor, or is kind of screwed him because this is a person that's kind of a few years into their contract into the Bill Belichick era. But here's the gingerbread house that Elliot Wolf has made for us and served to us this season. So this is Pro Football Focus's numbers. Again, it's not perfect, but we talked about Antonio Gibson, middle of the pack, 30th for running backs, and Austin Hooper, 6th out of 75 tight ends. Of course, Austin Hooper is not the 6th best tight end in the NFL, but he performed, I think, very well, and I think surprisingly well with this team. And I think he went really well with Drake May this year. A lot of the plays that I remember, there are very few plays that I remember on offense because not many were memorable, involved Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper did make some plays for us, so I am thankful for that. But for all that, there are these other major issues. So I don't know what the numbers are league wide, but we had 2 players ranked the absolute worst at their position. And one of
Do you
them
know
is
how
the one that
hard
keeps,
that is?
yeah,
Oh,
yep, 133 wide receivers. Jalen Polk has found a way. Best hands in the league per Jalen Polk, which of course I know you need to have some level of self-confidence and arrogance in yourself, is dead last in the league. Javon Baker probably would have been worse or maybe equal to him. We might have 134 and 133, but they just didn't give him the play time. And then we got Demontre Jacobs, a guy, again, who we pulled out of our butts mid-year because, you know, Wolf served us a poop sandwich and said, this Chucks guy who quit on the Steelers is our answer at left tackle. So we ended up with this guy, and Verdian Lowe, 69th out of 81. Any other names stand out to you, Dad, as just like, man, this is on Wolf? Any names that you point to, this is on Wolf?
I mean,
Right
Kendrick
here,
Bourne.
Kendrick
Kendrick Bourne's a
Bourne.
big one. 92 out of 133. You know they signed him to an extension for 3 years, 33 million.
While
I
he was
mean,
recovering from an ACL tear too, as well.
while exactly, great point. Like, what a terrible contract that is. And I'm sorry, the proof is in the pudding right there. Look at that. Even guys we think that were okay, booty. No, look at them. 94th out of 133. And these guys, they don't go based on just stats. That's why I found them valuable. They look at actual game film. They actually look at the routes they run,
Separation. Yep.
and yes, all that stuff. They take all that into consideration, and they give you an actual assessment of the player, not just based on numbers, which kind of drives me nuts. I mean,
Yeah, Ben
look at
Brown
the
down here.
scratch though.
Look at this offensive line. Layden Robinson, again, a guy that we got served up, said, "Oh, this is one of the guys.
Yep.
This is the undersized, oddly shaped guy that's going to come in and be a key on our offensive line." Even though, I mean, Dad, how far down the draft board was he for us? I think you pointed out in particular. Do you recall?
He was taken in the 4th round,
And I don't
and
think he was supposed to go there.
no, he was not supposed to go there. And keep in mind that what's his name? Camden Wallace isn't even on here.
Correct.
That whatever the heck his name is, I'm telling you now, he'd probably even be worse than Jacobs. He was absolutely atrocious with the penalties and just
Yep.
and that guy was the guy who really pissed me off because they took him in the 3rd round. The
Yep.
3rd round, and I watched film on him, and I thought Layden Robinson was a little better than Wallace, and it turns out they both
Both
are just
suck.
terrible. They
Yep.
both absolutely suck.
And then, again, understand this offensive line here: 69, 81, 33, 74, 39, right? Owenu might be
39 out of 40.
39 out of 40. That means he's second to last, and which means you're pretty much last. So
This
on the
is
defensive side of
unreal.
the ball, and I think the
Yep.
defense, Dad, I don't know where you're at with this, but the defense was by far and away the most disappointing part of this Patriots football
Mhm.
team. It was
Yeah.
absolutely gross to me. And here we
Yeah.
are,
They,
another list of names that a lot of things stick out here. Dad, what do you see?
I mean, I just see regression, which was us crying, you know, Mayo has to go. And a big reason why is his forte is supposed to be defense. And the defense has gotten noticeably worse, which it was. Covington, the defensive coordinator, I don't know if he's officially fired, but
He is officially
luckily
fired.
he's
They just
he
requested a
is. Okay.
interview with a guy from the to for the defensive coordinator position. They just requested a guy. So
Yeah,
yes.
so thank goodness he's gone. And it's just there's some physical talent there, but again, just a lot of bums, a lot of guys who are getting paid way too much, way more than they
Is there a
should
guy that's
be.
getting paid a lot
And
on here? Really? Which one is that? I want to help you point
yeah,
out who's that.
I wouldn't guess like who the safety is. Where in today's NFL, the Patriots are the only team in the league that pays big bucks for safeties. A good example is I don't know their names, Matt, but there were two top safeties last year at the end of free agency who did not have deals. Like they were considered top 10 safeties in the league. And they had to settle for like peanuts finally because nobody was paying them. The Patriots were the only team stupid enough to give Kyle Duggar that contract. I wish I could remember the old man could remember the names of the two safeties. They were like really good safeties. And every team is like, no, we don't nobody pays
Yep.
that position anymore. You can
Yep.
bring any guy in here
Justin
to play that.
Simmons. Justin Simmons has been one of
Yep.
the better. Yep, he was one. Um,
Thank you.
the other guy,
And there was a
you know,
second one.
is it Antoine
That's okay,
Winfield?
Matt.
Yeah, but
It's not important, right? But it just goes to show you. And here we are. How much money are we dumping into Peppers and Duggar? And the other guy. Is the other guy even on here? Who was the third safety we Hawkins. Hawkins, another guy we spent some real money on. Like,
yeah,
what good did that do? Having an elite safety group. We might have had one of the best safety groups in the league. How'd that do for our defense?
yep. And it definitely didn't do good. And then we have guys like Del Pettis. Like these are the guys that we're used to in the league. It's very similar to running back, where you kind of can plug and play an athletic player, right, with
Yep.
a good head on his shoulders. He doesn't have to be wonderful in coverage, and
Mhm.
put him back in the safety position. And this is what we get. We get Kyle Duggar, and I think a lot of people, they could talk about his coverage. They could talk about his inability to set the edge. They could talk about his decision making. How about we talk about his inability to hold the tackle? I think that was one of the more
Yeah.
frustrating things this season, and the things that stuck out to me the most. I don't know where that falls, Dad. Do you is that like is that all effort issues? What is that? I
Yeah.
mean,
That's I got paid. I'm on a crap team, so I'm not gonna really try. I'm not gonna separate my shoulder, break my collarbone, get a concussion from getting kicked in the head in the middle of a tackle. That's what that is. Kyle Bot Kyle Doug is just a bum now. He's a bum. He got paid. Congratulations, you loser. You know, let's look at some simple math, man, right? Between Duggar and Pepper, you're talking a little over 20 million in cap space.
yep.
Does it
Oh,
make
22.
sense to have Pettis, Mapu, and Hawkins as your starting three safeties to kind of rotate in, right? In today's
Yep.
NFL, where they're just not that important. How would you like $22 million in free cap space to get a real player? You know what kind of player you can get for $22 million? You can get a real good player. But
Yep.
nope, good thing we got Duggar and Peppers. Good thing we got those two to man the deep middle and occasionally, stop a run from going, instead of that run going 7 yards, it went only 4 yards because
Yep.
Pep is flying around making tackles. Great job, awesome.
Yeah.
And Doug is just gonna miss that tackle.
Yep. No, I completely agree. Uh, and I guess what other Patriots takes, Dad, did we want to touch on? Anything in particular? Oh, uh, the Ravens, right? Ravens are out. I don't know if anybody's taken the time to watch that game. Keep an eye on that left tackle position. I was not able to actually watch that game, but any thoughts on that game, Dad? Did you get to watch it? Did you check out Staley at all?
Yeah, I mean, I like what I saw. You
Okay.
guys kind of talked me into it. I was, you know, but again, can we get them? Guys just don't, you know, they don't let top 10 left tackles leave. Like teams just don't let that really happen often.
Yep.
Usually it ends up in a franchise situation where they get stuck with the team because they get franchised and a deal ultimately gets worked out. If a guy is like a top 10 left tackle, and I believe he is definitely a top 10, he might even be a top five. I think the numbers you ran by me, Matt, said he gave up 2 sacks all year or something
No,
along those lines.
yeah,
I
he's
know
only
the
given up
numbers
two
were really
sacks.
good on him.
Only given up 2 sacks this year. 4 hits allowed. Lamar Jackson does do a great job of avoiding. I don't know if they can franchise him. I know he's in a void year next year. I don't know exactly what that means. The NFL cap situation is very difficult. There's an $8 million void year on his spot track uh, contract situation. I don't, and they only have 17 million in cap space. If the Patriots, you're the Patriots, I think he's 30 years old. Yeah, 30 years old. You maybe go out there and offer him upwards of 20 million and say come in for 3-4 years and see what you can get, right? Especially if you can do that, that frees you up to get some talent at the high end of that draft. Which did did that make you feel any more comfortable, Dad, for going for a more of a talent position higher if we can get him? If we can get him.
If we can get him, yeah, I'm fine with it. He could be a stopgap for a couple of years for me. I mean, ideally, like you said last week, Matt, I want the plain Wonder Bread with disgusting mayo on top of it, and just get me a young stud left tackle to go with me for the next 10 years.
Yep.
But I mean, I can be sold on that. If Staley is available and he comes here, fine. I do not want a middle of the road left tackle. Get that crap idea out of here. I don't want anything to do with it. I want May comfortable, healthy. That guy is too important. Because of Drake May, we had the best coaches available fighting to get on this team. Ben Johnson, who didn't even want to sniff us last year, wanted on this team. Mike Vrabel, the hottest commodity out there, wanted on this team. And the free agents, because of Drake May, are going to want to come to this team.
Yep.
We need to take protecting him seriously.
Yep.
Show him that by getting him a legit left tackle, unlike that disgusting display that we gave him last year with Viridian Lowe and any other like loser we threw out there.
And I think Ronnie Staley fits so well because, the very similar play. I understand he's not Lamar Jackson, but a lot of the stats that Drake May puts up rushing wise are very similar to Lamar Jackson.
Oh
Whether you
yeah,
like it or not, he's averaging, higher yards per carry. He's having a ton of yards per game. So Ronnie Staley knows how to play with quarterbacks like that, which makes it even more appealing as I think about it. So, I
yeah.
mean, fingers crossed there. So we're 24 minutes in, Dad. Any other Patriots thoughts you want to touch on?
No, we can move on.
All right, nice and chill, just chatting with my dad, and this is why we created the podcast in the first place. I want to be able to talk to my dad, and he ran all the way down to Florida. So, uh, let's move on to the Celtics. Right, everyone's concerned.
Because I'm
You know,
because I'm wicked smart. What are you dealing with up there, Matt? I'm just curious. How's the weather?
some snow, but we just had a blast sledding in it. It's fine. I don't mind.
It did
They,
look
I
fun.
Yeah, I freaking gave a kid short term memory today by pushing my kid into him on the sled. Short term memory loss. That was very very interesting situation, but the kids loved it, and you
Mm.
know it wasn't a bad situation. But let's talk about the Celtics. I'll tell you, I have some takes on the Celtics team. Everything I read, everyone's worried. Dad, where are you standing with this Celtics team?
I mean, I used to be a 0 with them, but now I'm probably up to like a 3. And you know, some might say, "Was it? Whoa, that's still not bad. 3 out of 10." No, it's bad. Going from a 0 to a 3, it's just I don't know. Like it, I get the mid-season funk, right? There's like, what are we playing
After
for? It's a
championship,
long dread. After a champ, we talked about it last year,
all
even
teams
before
go
they
through
won a
this.
championship. Yeah, they do. It's just this one, the promising thing that I've seen in the last few games is I feel like they've shown, all right, everybody watch, we'll show you we can play defense. Because they have played good defense. They were playing great also against Atlanta Hawks, but all of a sudden, at the end of the game, Atlanta got hot. We started making dumb mistakes, and we ended up losing that game. But Orlando held them under 100. Today, Golden State held them under 100. Atlanta, we should have held them under 100. We were definitely on pace for it, but like I said, we just kind of started gagging at the end of that game. So I think they've like kind of said, okay, let's show everybody we're still an elite defensive team, which is good. They can flick the switch for that, obviously. Defense is mostly effort, smarts, and the Celtics have, plenty of smarts. And when the playoffs come, obviously the effort's going to be there. But the other thing now is the 3-point shooting, which is just weird to me. They started off so good to start the year. Like, why is it dropped so much? You'd think that with them averaging 53s a game, by far the most in NBA history, they'd be getting better at it, right? I mean, they're chucking threes up left and right. Like, it's almost like, it's like an extra practice. These games are like extra practices. And you'd think they'd start nailing them, like getting better at them. They're getting worse. And I don't know what the hell that is.
Yep. And I think, to lend some credit to what you just said, as we start off the year with like the most 3-point attempts like ever, like you said, and that stayed the same. And we were shooting at like a second in the NBA in efficiency from that point. We were like from a percentages. Now we're middle of the pack, which is tough when you're shooting that many threes. But this is where I'm at with it. I want them shooting 73s a game. I do not care. I really don't care. And here's the thing. My number will not go up to a 1. My number won't even go up to a 0.1 unless we lose the championship. And that sounds kind of lame. That's the, plain white bread and mayonnaise that, of the NBA. But this team has showed me that they can mail it in and then they can put their big boy pants on and make everybody look stupid, because that's exactly what they did last year. Only lost two games or 3 games. Was it 2 games or 3 games in the playoffs?
3.
3 games in the playoffs against some really good teams. Nobody wants to play the Celtics. I don't care what the Celtics look like. January 20th, December 12th, doesn't matter. Nobody wants this smoke. And every 3 they take is one less drive. And this all this goes down. All this ends on one drive. We don't know when it could happen, who it could happen to. Tatum, Brown. We've proven really we could do it without Porzingis, but all that is out the window if we're shooting threes. This team, I feel like Joe Mazzulla is just super smart. And I don't know if that's because I am thinking too highly of him, but I'm giving him a ton of credit that he is planning for the long haul. I think Joe Mazzulla likes losing these games. Joe Mazzulla, I think, is straight up said he likes losing these games. He mentioned this is his favorite part of the season. That guy is ready for war. Psycho Joe is everything. Is everything we need. And I've told you this, Dad. He's messing with the rotations. He's not JJ Redick. He's not throwing out the best lineup possible all the time, because I think Joe wants to win championships. I think Joe wipes his butt with regular season January wins. We are. Do you know where we're at in the rankings right now for the East? Second. We got a 3-game lead on the Knicks. Second in the East. We have 30 wins already, right? And then, what's the Phil Jackson line? You got to get to 40 wins before you get 20 losses, and then you're a championship contender. We're gonna make that easily. And everyone concerned about, we got to keep pace with the, Oklahoma City Thunder. We got to keep pace, whatever with the with the West. The Thunder are getting bounced round 1 or 2. They're a bunch of chokers. I don't care what anybody, until the Thunder prove otherwise, they're a bunch of chokers. All right. So this team is a wagon. No matter how much Pete tries to bring me down in that group chat, I am riding high on the Celtics. They are doing everything I wanted. If you told me at the start of the season to be 30-13 and everybody on the team has by the most part, clean bill of health, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would take that any day of the week. Would you not take that, Dad, before this season?
Listen, the old bull needs to step in here, okay, and
He's
grab the
trying.
young little Cav by the collar and take him to the car and bring
I'm
him
riding
home
high.
because he's getting a little too ahead of himself. You make a lot of great points, right? Every three that the Celtics take, one less drive to the hoop is by far less chance of an injury. Absolutely. And John, I'm going to get to that in a second because it's
John,
well documented on this show how I feel about OKC and what I said about them last
John,
year. So I'm going to get that
SGA
in a
is
second.
the Joel Embiid of the West. He's never made it out of the second round, and he's not gonna make it out of the second round. John, everyone needs to wake up. Okay, SGA is only one. Like, I'd have to look it up. Like 12 playoff games, and like 8 of them are with Chris Paul or something like that. I'll have to find the stat. So go ahead, Dad. Keep going. Keep going.
So, and the Celtics, what gets overlooked because of all their threes that they shoot, they are an elite drive to the hoop team. I mean, who can't drive to the hoop? Tatum obviously can. Brown can. White can. Holiday can. Even Porzingis tries sometimes, which drives me nuts because that's always how he gets hurt. Whenever he tries to blow by someone, like
Oh
stop
yeah.
doing that, dude.
Yep.
Knock it off. Pritchard can drive to the hoop. So yeah, when the playoffs come around, if the threes aren't falling, I would like to think we're a smart veteran team. We would settle more for, driving to the hoop and mid-range jumpers, which we are maybe the best in the league at because no other team really likes to do them. But John, about OKC, last year I have been on this show when we first started, I said buckle down, people, because when they come, they're not going away. And I said it wouldn't be that this year, meaning last year. So I was right. I said they're too still inexperienced. I said, but they'll be there next year, meaning this year. And yes, they are going to be in the finals. Everyone's going to break through. And luckily, they don't have the experience yet. They're probably going to be like the Celtics were when they went up against Golden State in the finals. If they go up against us, which I'm assuming they're going to, and I think we're still going to beat them. But I say get ready because there's going to be multiple Celtics OKC championship battles. I said that. I said that last year, and I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming this year. It might be. I don't know if it's coming next year. It's tough to get back to the finals 3 years in a row. That's asking a lot of any team. Celtics staying healthy. Because knock on wood, it's all about the health. But yeah, Matt, I agree with a lot of the things you said. It still boils down to health. The Celtics do have a switch. They proved that they haven't. They do have a switch. I'm just concerned with the switch. It doesn't necessarily work for a 3-point accuracy. Yep, they could turn on the switch and go back to being the best defensive team in the league at any time they want by simply flicking the switch. And they will do that when the playoffs come, and people will see that. But the 3-point shooting, if that doesn't fix itself, there's cause for concern there. And Tatum is back to sucking at threes again. I mean, I whatever it is, I hope he needs to fix it, and he needs to stop shooting threes unless he's wide open because he's still pretty good if he can set his feet, have a split second, and shoot. Stop taking sidestepping threes, slightly fading away threes. That's when he gets into trouble. He makes one of those once in a while, and then he thinks he's Kobe again. So he's gonna cut that crap.
Yep. Listen, everyone needs to chill the frick out with OKC, right? Chet Holmgren, do you know what it got announced today? He's out another 3 to 5 weeks, right? He's got the big man syndrome. He's struggling with his injuries, right?
They'll be healthy in time for the playoffs.
Do you know who Shea Gilgeous's only playoff series win is against? Can you take a guess?
The Clippers. Was it
Nope.
the Clippers?
No, he was on the Clippers, and I think he got a playoff series win, but he was like kind of a rookie. I don't even count that. the New Orleans Pelicans. Last year, without Zion, they beat the New Orleans Pelicans in 4 games. Guess who beat them 4-2, even though OKC had home court advantage? Beat OKC in their house twice. And that was the Dallas Mavericks. And we made the Dallas Mavericks look like absolute Swiss cheese. Dad, this I know this is not the exact topic of this, but the Celtics prove they have the winning gene. OKC hasn't, and they still got to make it out of the West.
Right.
And I think the West has a lot of real gamers over there. I think the West is a lot tougher to get out of than the East. I know you talked about our 3-point shooting, but I think another 3-point shooting to be discussed is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've done it for a good amount of games this year, right? I mean, at this point, we're almost halfway through the year, but are the Cleveland Cavaliers going to shoot at the clip they're shooting at under the brightest lights, right? Is George Niang going to be a 40-something% 3-point shooter? Is Dean Wade going to be a 40? Like all these guys who are shooting 5+% higher than their career averages, are those going to hang on, right? So where it really just depends on how it fleshes out, right? Does water find its level with those other teams, or do the Celtics start playing the way they've played? So this team, I think they're bored, and I really do like the fact that we are not driving to the hoop. I want all that. John, I completely understand, and I think it's really easy to look at this OKC team and say they got it, but I think that there is a lot of choking on that team. If you look historically, a lot of the guys that are key contributors during the regular season, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, these kind of guys, they were pulling out of their butt and putting up crazy threes during the regular season, really aren't making that happen in the postseason. And there's not too much of a track record because they haven't made the postseason a lot. But I think they're missing something. And if I was them, this might sound stupid. If I was them, I would go out and I'd try and get Jimmy Butler. I would move one of those pieces, and I would get Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler's a winner. That guy's a baller. I know he's super old. I think he could probably bring to them what Drew Holiday has brought to both the Bucks and to the Celtics. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah, the flaw in your argument is the Celtics were exactly where you're saying these
No, they
teams
weren't.
are.
No, they weren't.
The Celtics before last year hadn't won a damn thing. They hadn't
What are you
won a
talking
thing.
about?
I don't listen. I don't
Time
care.
out.
We're from Boston, okay? We only count championships. Getting to the finals one year, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals all those years. Great, awesome. Yay, we're there and we lost. Every team's going to start somewhere. And yeah, OKC, I'm just telling you, they're getting to the finals this year. I'm not saying they can beat us. I don't think they can beat us. Absolutely not. I'm still taking my Celtics. But I'm telling you, every team has got to start somewhere. And, I don't know. It's only a matter of time before they break through and win it all because they're so young and they're so loaded with draft picks. And I don't think it's going to be this year. Might not even be next year, but it's coming. Trust me, that team is way too stacked. But I agree with you, Matt. And they are young and youngest. Jimmy Butler is a head case, John, but I do agree with my son on that. If I was OKC, I would do everything.
They have like
Trade some of
100
those
first-round
draft
picks. 100 of them.
Yeah, they have a million of them.
And a ton of cap space.
That would be terrifying for Jimmy Butler to go to.
Then I would take them seriously,
OKC.
100%. Right away, I would take them
Yeah.
seriously.
Especially with the way Butler has no fear of the Celtics. That would be a problem. I'm telling you now.
So one thing I think it's important, Dad, is you're discounting how hard it is to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and Western Conference Finals, right? We did it super young. Tatum did it in his first year. Tatum's like almost the Tom Brady of the NFL, of the NBA when it comes to making the conference final games. It's like more likely for Tatum to make a conference final than it is for him to hit a 3-point shot, which of course his 3-point percentage is super low, right? But a lot of these NBA players, Joel Embiid's one of them, Shea Gilgeous, you got these guys who just can't win, right? Can't get there. James Harden, same thing. Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook. It goes on. These career first, second round, and bounced NBA players. I think Shea Gilgeous fits that mold, and the entire team's going to follow him. So, I listen. We won't know. I mean, I'll look crazy at the end of this year, but okay. How about this? If they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals next year, will you then admit they are chokers and see them for what I see them, or are you going to give them another year?
This year. No. This year.
No, I know.
I
So
will.
my bad. If they don't make
I
it
will
this
say it.
year, okay, all right,
Yeah.
because that team is
I'll
loaded.
say. I'll say there's something wrong. There's definitely
Yeah,
something wrong. They should make it this year. The West is pretty good. It is kind of loaded, but they're dominating. They're dominating. They're kicking everyone's butt. They just kicked Cleveland's butt like really bad. So all right, you guys. You're young, like from a numbers wise, but you get some experienced players now. You get some players that have multiple playoff, runs and I mean not runs, but experience. And
not runs
it
at all.
is. It's time for
Actually,
them. It's time for them to put their big boy pants on, like you said earlier. So
yeah. So
anyway,
John,
should we jump?
John, I don't know if you're still here, but we were talking about our concern level for the Celtics. Mine is a 0, John. I'm not concerned at all. As long as we make the playoffs, that's all I care about because we are, as the old book coined last year, the road killers. Give me the Celtics against anybody in their house, and I'm betting the house on the Celtics because this team plays better on the road. They just went. I don't know if you saw, but today they blew the Warriors out by 40 in their house. The Warriors didn't have Draymond Green, but blew them out by 40. And you know,
So what?
and that's what I mean. So what? I mean, that's a Warriors team that's
No, I
really
mean, so what? Draymond Green, like
yeah,
give me a break. Yeah,
yeah.
he's
Like
a
that's
good
a Warriors
defender. And
team.
he's got some good passes. So what?
Yeah.
That guy's so overrated.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, super happy with the Celtics. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned, and I
All
can't
right,
wait for the NBA playoffs. That's for sure.
well, let's get some Bruins love in here.
All right. I think
I'm,
the Bruins deserve all the credit right now. Uh, love it. Love you guys. Love you too, John. You're our only guy in here today. We super appreciate you, John. You're in here. If you ever want to get in the spotlight, John, you could probably message my dad on Facebook. If you're free Monday night around 7:30, join.
Absolutely.
If there's a certain set of teams you want to talk about, a team you care about the most, the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, we could have you just on for one, two, or those, or all three if you want to touch on all three, and we'll talk to you about it. Just need your phone, John. You don't need anything fancy. You can join from your phone. It's super easy. I'd send you a link. You click on it and say let the stream use my camera and audio, and we'll have you on. Let us know if you want to do that. So Bruins today. They deserve all the credit while also none of the credit at the same time because it's so frustrating, right? And do you know why I'm saying that, Dad? With these past few games,
I don't know. So I didn't get to talk to you about the Bruins, but I just know that like today, you look at the final score. Oh, 6-3. Okay, that's pretty good. San Jose is in the bottom three teams of the league, and San Jose was winning 3-2 going into the third period in Boston. And okay, great. Bruins came around, and two empty net goals, so it's a little deceptive that 6-3. It's good to see man Patriots get a couple of legit assists. I love that. Looks like they kind of putting them with Coyle and Martian at times. Some real NBA, real NHL players. Sticking them with Frederick too a lot. I'm not crazy about that. To me, Frederick is not a real top six player. I think he's even a fourth line player. I don't think he even belongs on the third line. I think Frederick is just not very talented. He's one of those hustle guys, get some goals here and there. He doesn't ever make any pretty goals. And, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not super impressed with that win. They blew the game. Another freaking last second goal against Ottawa. That curse over the last 3 years just
I
won't go away.
know.
No team gives up last minute goals, whether it's the end of the period or the end of the game, like our beloved Boston Bruins. Just like tight sphincter, choking, wrapping their pants at the end of the period, end of the game. They can't just get their stuff together.
Yeah, and I think where I'm at with it, Dad, is all right. I think the Lightning game is kind of a turning point from our goal scoring perspective, right? We're at
Mm.
5 goals. I know you mentioned, two of the goals were smokes and mirrors today. 6 goals, 5 goals, and then 6 goals, right? Patras coming up. The Vinny Lettieri guy. The Vinny Lettieri guy is a lifer in the AHL. He's super small. He was leading the Providence Bruins in goals this season, so they threw him a flyer. Appreciated it. I did not like it. when it happened because it didn't bring up Patra. Now he's up here. I don't care that Vinny's up here. I'm glad Vinny's up here. I'm glad he's performing. But Patra up here is super important. What I don't like is that Patra's still getting shafted a bit on the time on ice and the shifts.
Nope.
He's averaging a point per every 12 and a half minutes on ice, which I think I'd have to double check. And there's a lot of stats that I've looked into for that. But that's got to be super high up there on the Bruins, especially when you're wheeling the corpse of Brad Marchand out there for 21 minutes, 22 minutes for these games half the time.
Yeah.
It's like Poitras is making things happen. He's not getting many shifts. Most of the time, he's tied or maybe second or third lowest in shift totals. I would love to see Matt Poitras out there. I'm super thankful they did bring him up. But, man, I just can't stand they still find ways to bury this guy. And that could be a bit frustrating. He can get any power play time on ice in his first game against the Lightning, and they could say whatever they want about practice and stuff like that, but he didn't get any against the Ottawa Senators as well. And then also, I'd have to double. Oh yeah, and he also got none against the Sharks, so they're not putting him in the power play, and he's still averaging a point every 12 minutes. And just FYI, this Bruins power play could not get any worse. It's almost impossible for them to get any worse. At this point, I think they've given up more shorthanded goals than they've had power play goals. Just before they brought up Pacha, there was a 10-game span where they gave up 3 shorthanded goals and they had like 3 power play goals. So it was a complete net even. And they're still not finding spots for Pacha on that power play. So that's kind of my vent / comment on the Bruins there.
Matt, hockey was my first love. It was my first sport. Legit started watching it at 5. The other sports came around when I was 6 and 7 years old. And I have never heard of that. I have never heard so I'm 52 years old, 47 years of watching hockey, a 10-game span where you give up as many shorthanded goals as power play goals you score. That is as bad as it gets. And it's a great point. Like, what the hell do you have to lose? Throw the damn kid on the power play and try it. And that Vinny kid they brought up, I hate that move. Like, I know the kids get 2 goals, blah, blah, blah. What the hell good is that? What is that? Talk about that. That dude's ceiling has been reached. He's like 30. He's never, like, barely ever played in the NHL. I want those minutes going to Merkulov or Lysel because we
That's
are
true.
so barren in prospects because our draft has been so bad. Like those 2 imposters are the only kind of hope we have for prospects. I want those minutes going to those guys. And sure enough, we get some feel good story, guy who's, like you said, a lifelong AHLer. Great. So he gets to, well, maybe he gets 4 goals in 7 games. What do you think his numbers are gonna be by the end of the year, Matt? If he's played the last 40 games, he's
Absolutely
probably
nothing.
gonna have 4 goals and 2 assists.
No.
It's like, what the hell good is that? What good is that when we go to the playoffs? If we make the playoffs, by the way, which we are in danger of missing.
Yeah, it means absolutely nothing. And, this is why it's hard to get excited about guys like Kasalek and, those other guys who are having like a good start to the season. It's like, that's not them. That's not the kind of player they are. They're not going to break out that way. And, it's good that they're playing well, but it's not something to get super excited about. We got Tim here. Tim, go Bees. Tim, we got our wish. Potter's up here. They're shafting him on the minutes, Tim, but he's got 3 points in 3 games. It gives me a reason to watch the Bruins. It gives me a reason to watch the highlights. The first assist he had for Frederick, where he just, Tim highlighted it. Tim sent me a text. He's like, I don't think Frederick even realized how easy of a shot that was going to be for him. But that's one of the first highlights I had watched from the Bruins in like a week because I was excited about that. And I think as Bruins fans, those are things we should be excited about. So Tim's bringing something up, and I'd have to go look at the Bruins subreddit. A possible rift.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything
Oh,
about
there
this?
is. I was gonna get to that. Tim beat me to the punch. That's why Tim knows his stuff. So, yeah, guess who didn't play in overtime the other
Really?
day? Yeah, the Bruins went to a shootout the entire overtime frame. Somebody wasn't seen on the ice. Very, very bizarre. That would be Mr. Brad Marchand, the Bruins captain. And, there's something going on. I mean, it's probably considered blasphemous to ever even think of trading a Bruins captain when you think of our captains going back to, you know, Bork and, Bergeron and Chara. You know, it might be time. It might be time to trade him. And again, I want, I don't want a draft pick unless we're missing the playoffs. If it looks like we're missing the playoffs, we can get a first round pick for Martian. Absolutely do it. If it's looking like we're going to make the playoffs around the trade deadline, can you just get a comparable guy in here? Guy who come close to matching his number. Again, I'm a broken record. I've said this a million times this season. Get me a guy, trade guys out and get guys who are also struggling on their team, but normally put up the same numbers as the guy we're shipping out to give them a fresh start. But, we
Yep,
just
Char went
don't
to the
seem to do
Caps.
that.
And,
Yeah.
I think Marchand would be such a prize for any of these teams. Like any team that is currently in the cup running, if you manage to
Yeah.
trade and get Brad Marchand, you, I think, immediately become the absolute favorites. I think it's, not exactly the same as Kachuk because Kachuk, I think, was on their younger side, right?
Yeah.
But, that kind of Tarasenko type player that you sign. And, I'm thinking back to, our cup runs. We have, we got Yager, we got the Ginla guy, right? You get these older veterans who know how to win. And Marchand is one of those veterans. And you plug him into a team that has a good locker room, that has the skill level. And I think he's everything you're looking for. And so if I was any of those teams, I would be calling immediately to get Brad Marchand on my team.
But here's the problem with him. If there is a rift and we do trade Marchand and we do get a high draft pick for him,
Uh-oh.
what good is that? What good
Absolutely
is it
nothing.
if we get a first round pick when we have Don Sweeney still calling the shots? The Elliot Wolf of hockey. Okay. Don Sweeney. So I posed a question to Matt because one of our top listeners, Peter Padua, brings this up all the time. He's rooting for the Bruins to lose. He wants the Bruins to miss the playoffs because we know Jeremy Jacobs. The only shot of Sweeney getting booted out of here would be to cut into his wallet by the Bruins missing the playoffs, not getting the gate money, those ticket sales for playoffs, the concessions. So Matt, Tim, I ask you, anyone else who's in here, would you sacrifice this season? Bruins do not make the playoffs with a guarantee that Sweeney is out and we get a fresh
Front office
set of
entirely.
yes. Would you do it?
So just for my selfishness of this podcast and just being able to talk to all you guys about the Bruins, I want Bruins playoff hockey so bad. Um, I would absolutely love it if we can get in there.
Mm.
I don't know where up is with hockey when it comes to general managers and drafting. I will say that the pick they just had this year for the big guy out of BU is not looking great because he's had, I think, no goals or assists in like
Nope.
any game this season for college. And I know they talked about, he's young, he's this, that. I feel like he should at least be getting, a little bit of points being
In
in
college,
college.
yeah,
Yeah. And he
yeah,
and there's games when BU is beating teams having 7, 6, 8, 6 goals, and this guy can't even get a point. It's like how are
yeah.
you not accidentally getting a hockey assist on that? But
Exactly. It
yeah,
is. It's infuriating. So
yeah. So
I don't know. So you still want playoff hockey even if it means the Bruins are out 5 games and we bring back Sweeney next year.
yeah. So
And Tim
even 10.
says he can live with Sweeney. Yeah, and Tim, don't give it with Sacco. Listen, if you listen to the show, I've been on the what the hell is Sacco still doing here bandwagon. Like I've been on the let's get a good offensive team who's been under that coach for years. Let's get that young, fresh offensive perspective in here and get Sacco the hell out of here. But no, every day I wake up, Sacco's still the coach, because it's an easy, lazy decision by Sweeney. Just another piss poor idea by him to keep him around. So, I mean,
Yeah, if
not a
and
bad GM. I don't know, Tim. I got to push back on that a little bit. The only time I was ever happy with Sweeney was his trade deadline when the Bruins had that record-setting regular season. Okay, I was happy
Bertuzzi
with
was
Sweeney,
legit.
what
Yep.
Sweeney did. Yep, and I was happy with the additions he brought in. What was it, Olaf? What was his name?
Orlov. Yep. Orlov's,
Yep,
Bertuzzi, and
yep.
then
And there was
Hathaway.
the third,
Hathaway.
the fourth guy Hathaway. Yeah, I was happy with that. Otherwise, man, there's very little I see from Sweeney's. He's had a couple of good draft picks in there, with McAvoy, you know, and Patras, but I don't. What the hell good is it if they don't use Patras too? That's like another thing. Like he drafts Lysel and Patras and Merkelov, and then he doesn't even give him a legit chance. So
Yeah. And
uh,
so, Tim, this is what we talked about a few times. We're kind of applying the same thought process that the NBA and the NFL does, right? Where you go to a successful team, you find out pretty much who is the closest guy to the head coach, and you go and hire them. And so that's why I would go to a team like the Winnipeg Jets, 165 goals this year, 47 games, and I figure out who is their offensive, specialist in that hockey room, in that locker room, and maybe talk to him. The Knights are year in, year out vying for a cup. This is not
basically,
all.
who's the assistant? Who's
Yeah.
the assistant
Who's the
coach
assistant
to these
coach?
juggernaut teams who score goals?
Yeah.
And give them a shot. Just give them a shot. See what because they're gonna take whatever they're drawing up on the power play board. They're gonna try to implement that into Bruins players. Whatever schemes they create to get out of their own zone and get to the neutral zone to set up in the offensive zone, they're gonna bring that to the team. Get something freaking fresh in here. So we don't necessarily, Tim, have like concrete names we'd want. It's more of poach one of these assistants from one of these teams.
Yeah. And I think that, Monty giving up on the bees, Monty's, getting kicked out after becoming coach of the year. Like you said, it's Sweeney not putting the right guys in the room. Sweeney not building the roster we need. There's really not much light at the end of the tunnel. I have to look and see where we compare. I know that there's so much out there from a baseball perspective, right? The farm systems. It's much more of a bigger deal in baseball. I don't know where we rank in farm systems in the NHL, but I can't imagine it's too high because there's not very much excitement coming down the pipe for this team. And I unlike the Patriots, there's a clear decision maker on this NHL Bruins team, and it's Sweeney that is making these decisions, and he's the one who built this farm system, and he's the one who put us in this cap situation. I don't think our cap is, technically like really too egregious. Some of the defensemen, Hampus, being the way he is kind of tough, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if Sweeney's the guy to be building a team. I would love to get some young, talented coach and a GM to kind of start fresh and build a team that can, compete with some of these high scoring teams. Because right now, I know we talked about McAvoy leaving, but I'm seeing a ton of shots being given up by this team now that McAvoy's gone. I know we are scoring more, but we're also giving up a ton of goals. So it's kind of going the wrong way both ways here.
And I'd bet $1,000 that no reputable hockey analyst site has the Bruins farm system in the top 25. I'd bet $1,000 that every single one of those has the Bruins in the last five of the league. Like talking the bottom. Their farm system is garbage. There's nothing there. Now that low rye is a regular, they don't even have
Number
low
one,
rye.
number one on the
Oh,
hockeywriters.com
look at that. The
ranking in
worst.
the NHL. And we are literally the worst team in the
That
league.
didn't take long to find.
That is
Look at the
the
young cow.
first Google search. We need to
Throws it in
move.
the throws
Go
it in
ahead.
that Google machine and look at that.
We are
Oh,
the
you
very
freak.
first Google. We need to move on to Zadorov. Somehow he is a defensive liability. No, I mean,
Yeah.
Tim, and that's a Sweeney play, right? Zadorov wasn't really on the radar for a lot of us guys as we were taking a look at what this team needed long term. Um,
Yeah.
But we went out and we signed him, and he was a penalty machine his entire career. And what a surprise!
Yeah.
He's still a penalty machine. Eat 2 or 3 million, trade him in a package. Tim would drive Zadorov to Logan himself. Tim, I've never it's so funny the visceral disdain that has for Zadorov, and I don't blame him, right? Especially as a fan
Yeah. It's
when our
it's been
penalty
bad.
kill sucks, right? When our penalty kill sucks, and he keeps putting us on these penalties, and he's trying to, I think, be that edge for our team, but it's really not accomplishing it. It's just putting us in rough spots and putting our goalies who've been struggling against the power play on power plays, facing power plays.
And let me tell you, in the defensive zone, he is what Carlo is in the playoffs. When we do Bruins playoff games, I point out where Carlo is just standing in front of his Bruins goaltender and just either covers the wrong guy or is covering nobody or just looks lost. Zadorov does that in the regular season. There's times I'm like, oh, Zadorov, he was on the ice for this goal. Let me see the replay here. What the hell's he doing there? Why is he not covering the guy who's 2 feet to the left of him? Why did he go cover that guy when that guy has a bad angle and the other guy is just standing right in front of the net in a prime position? Like, Zadorov is, man, he is. We all get tantalized by his size, hoping he was the next Zdeno Chara. You talk about insulting to even put those two in the same breath. Like, holy cow, he has been a complete disaster of a free agent signing.
Yep. I I agree. I agree. And especially in hockey when free agents you have to hit. If you're going to be a competitive team, you have to. And Dad, you're totally right. At this point, we are super low in goals against overall. I mean, like we are fourth, bottom four in the Eastern Conference for goals against. And that's pretty lucky considering we are the last wild card left, right? We are 1 point above the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the team is giving up a ton of goals. We're not scoring a ton of goals. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a team that can compete. And I think this Bruins team wants to compete. I don't like being this first round exit kind of same old story. So whatever we have to do, I kind of wanted to start over. And I wanted to start over last year, and we didn't. And then we got bounced in the second round. And I did enjoy that first round bit of hockey. Watching that Game 7 win over the Maple Leafs with my dad, and Disney was one of the highlights of my life, right? That's gonna be, up there, right? So
Yeah.
getting that back, I'm not super mad about. I wouldn't mind the playoff series, but for us to really get back in the driver's seat towards the Stanley Cup, I think we have to do more. We have to remove a lot from this team. Our other defensemen are are made worse because they have to cover his deficiencies. If we can
Yeah.
get rid of Zadorov, I think there's a chance we make the playoffs. Wow. Tim is ready to just the
Yeah.
scapegoat.
He hates him.
Yeah, he does. I hope Tim doesn't run
Yeah, and
into
let me
Zadorov at Costco or something like that because I think Tim's swinging on him if he sees him in Costco over near Boston.
well, guess what Tim's gonna lose that fight, that's for
Tim's
sure.
Tim's a big guy. He's squirrely. He's 6'2". He's an Australian. All
Is
right,
he?
they know how to tussle.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just say this though, Matt. Before you go counting the Bruins for being ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets, keep in mind the Bruins have played 3 more games than them. So no, the Columbus Blue Jackets are actually ahead of the Bruins. And that the Canadians. Here comes the Canadians. They're 2 games in hands of the Bruins and only 2 points behind. So if the Canadians win the next 2 games, they are officially ahead of the Bruins because the Bruins have played more games. How's that for a
I know
line?
you.
The
I know you don't
freaking
hate him as a
Canadians.
person, Tim. I know you. I'm just messing, but yeah, no. I think at this point, and this is kind of the dangerous part, right? Because as somebody in the front office, you have to make a decision of is this team a team we should be buying or selling? But one thing we cannot do is be the Patriots. We do have pieces on this team that will add value elsewhere, and holding on to them just for the sake of holding on to them. And this kind of goes with Jeremy Jacobs and what you've been concerned about, right? Putting butts in seats and what they care about. I don't know if the Jacobs will let us be sellers because they want to fill the seats, they want to sell out. But for the long term, we have to move these guys while they have value before they walk. before they get older. That's what other teams do, and that's how they kind of battle back. I just think he's a major liability and doesn't fit our team. Completely agree, Tim. So I hope we make some moves. I hope we're sellers at this point. I didn't realize it was that dire from our playoff standpoint. I don't see how this team is going to be able to climb up well enough in the playoffs to get a spot. So yeah,
And
I don't
Matt,
know.
that's also not counting. That's also not counting the Rangers, who are in this really weird funk. But make no mistake about it, the Rangers are loaded with talent, and at some point they're gonna turn it on and they're gonna pass us. So that's like another team. So what are we doing? We're just hanging. We're gonna be hanging around just outside the playoff, and you know, I'm kind of with Peter on this. It kills me not. It'll absolutely destroy me not to have playoff hockey because I love playoff hockey. But man, if it means getting Sweeney the hell out of here and starting over and trading some guys to get some pieces and actually bringing someone in who knows what they're doing in the draft, and we end up sucking for a year or two before we get, we have a young, promising team back, then that might be the way to go. I mean, it looks so dire right now. I can't remember. I can't remember the last time a Bruins team had, like, in my opinion, zero shot of winning the cup if they make the playoffs. And this is
Yep.
pretty damn close.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And Tim, yeah, I think we need a retool. I think we need an entire rebuild. I'm sorry. I think we need a retool, not an entire rebuild. I think we need an entire rebuild. I think our farm system sucks. I think we get to trade, get assets, and draft players. I think we have the least amount of draft picks in the first like 2 or 3 rounds out of anybody in the last 5 years. And that's not a super big fault on the organization. It's because they've made moves, right? To make things happen. Can we get Marshy 3 for $3 million? It would be great to see Marchand take a pay cut. I don't know if that means that we need to let him pick the coach or what, but he probably wants to coach. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd imagine he
Is
wants
he
to
a
coach.
free agent after this year?
Brad Marchand contract.
Yeah, he better take. I mean, they better not offer him what they normally pay him. That's for sure. If he's a free agent.
He is an unrestricted free agent next year. You don't want to give him $6.125 million next year.
Yeah, not even close.
So
No, he needs to take a significant pay cut, which he's probably not gonna. Which
yep,
means maybe you should trade him at the trade deadline.
yep. Brad
Let's see if
Marchand,
you can get a first round pick.
Trent Frederick, Wallstrom.
Oh, not Chet Frederick. Oh, can't lose him. Lock him up long term.
Man,
Boy, the
seeing some
friggin'
of these
players on this team.
Zadorov. You're with Zadorov, Tim, until 2030. So
Oh
I
yeah,
hope you
buckle up,
enjoy
Tim.
that.
Buckle up, Tim.
That is rough.
He's probably the first guy getting traded if a new GM comes in. So Tim, you should be rooting for Sweeney to get boosted. Absolutely, because that's probably the first guy he would get the hell out of here.
All right, we're an hour and 8 minutes in. To be fair, Marshy
Yep.
was way under his pay. Completely agree, Tim. If they pay him more money, I don't care. I think what this team needs is more draft picks. I think we need some more promising future in the farm system. I don't know how they're going to do that, but yeah, I think it probably starts with trading some of these guys. And if it has to be trading Marchand, then so be it. But yeah, hour 8 minutes, hour 9 minutes. Hope everybody has a good rest of their week. Thank you so much, Tim, for tuning in. Thanks, John, for tuning in. It's always a good talking to you guys. It's the way we really want these podcasts to go, is just chatting about some
Yeah.
sports with some buddies. So thank you for that.
Please, if you can, listen on YouTube, subscribe, all that stuff really helps us. And we forgot to do the sponsors.
That's all
Ah,
right. We'll do some
damn it,
next
we'll have
time.
to do it next. We'll have to do them next time. Oh, that's new. We forgot. We dropped the ball there. Sorry, people. But hey, maybe we'll be starting the tankathon for the Bruins in a couple weeks. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody has a good rest of their